New figures are out that support just how crushing student debt has become here in Canada. For more, we're joined by CTV's chief financial commentator, Pattie Lovett-Reid. Pattie.
You know how so often we like to talk about millennials and the debt levels, and there was a report out earlier this week, and this was by Hoyes, Mikolos and Associates, that talked about the insolvencies primarily in the province of Ontario, just the increase of the number of millennials going into bankruptcy, and a lot of that has to do with the crushing amount of student debt. And then we hear from the finance minister wanting to help millennials get into their first home. Some suggesting that that increase on taking money out of your registered retirement savings plan from $25,000 to $35,000 is going to help things along. I don't know a lot of millennials that have that much money in there, and we know that this is a very small portion of it. So then I get
and also $10,000 difference doesn't buy you much.
No, it's not. And in some of the hot markets, it really isn't going to do a lot for you in Toronto and Vancouver. But in other markets, it could certainly help things out a small amount. And by the way, you still have to pay that back 1/15 each year. And so when we're in an environment where incomes are not rocketing higher, it's a challenging situation. But I will also add to that, a new report out this morning by Credit Karma has millennials, and of course, sometimes they like to be slammed, FOMO, fear of missing out. 50% say that they spent money and went into debt just in order to keep up with their friends and not be left out. And I'm talking about things like going on vacation, weekend trips, dinner and drinks. But instead of just being totally negative here, I thought FOMO, and then I learned a new word this morning from my colleague on CP2 for JOMO. If 50% are fear of missing out, then what about the other 50% say they have a joy in missing out? I throw that out there because I think sometimes we paint all millennials with the same brush, and I'm not sure that's fair.
How does this fit with crushing student debt levels? Is there the suggestion here that some students are struggling with their debt because they're going on vacation with their friends?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I do think student debt is one of those things that allow you potentially to get the job that you hope to get and the income earning potential down the road. It's going into debt to go out with friends. Or in this report that says 30% spend money at least a few times a year so that they can post it on Instagram. You know, it's a real thing out there, though. It is about keeping up and appearances, and I throw it out there. But I guess the point I'm really trying to make here is that 50% of millennials may be doing that, but there are the other groups that, and some have student debt, and I respect that, but that still has to be paid off, and debt is debt. But on the other hand, some people are quite comfortable saying no and are strong enough and savvy enough to say, I can't afford it, I'm not doing it.
It's all personal choices, and some people are stronger than others, and credit is easy.
Yeah,
you get a credit card.
Still is.
It's easy. The bank's more than happy to give you money. And the ads for payday loans. Oh my God, it looks like a joy to deal with.
Yeah, I know. And of course, that's the debt cycle, the spiral death trap for those starting out. And so for those who have the joy of missing out, I say I applaud them. It's about getting that plan in place so that they can retire that debt. In the budget, by the way, there's an opportunity to have the interest clock stopped on the first 6 months until you actually get that job. And it's not a lot, but it's something.
Should parents who are able to finance entirely their children's post-secondary educations do that? And if they do, what should their expectations be about those kids and how they live their lives with regard to non-essential spending like going on vacations? Well,
it's interesting that you say that because in the interest of disclosure, and this is not a set-up question, but we did fund all 4 of our children's education.
As did I.
But I only did it if they came up with $2,000. Now, this was back then for their discretionary spending, and they had a budget and a plan in place. And the money we gave them at the beginning of their school year under the condition that I don't care if you're on the street. Don't come back to me for more. And I say that sort of tongue-in-cheek, and I'm not sure whether or not I would have actually pushed the envelope and said, figure it out, but they never did come back. And so when people say to me, what do you do when your children disappoint you? I think the greatest gift you can give a child is responsibility. And when they blow their money, they're not disappointing me. They're disappointing themselves. It's about setting themselves up for success.
Right, they're adults. They have to...
yeah. So how do you feel about funding your child's education?
I will probably join the two of you. We will probably join the two of you and probably finance my son's expectations. But you've got some good advice there on expectations.
We'll be talking more about it later.
Thanks, Pattie.
Thankfully, though, this is not the U.S.